Nigerian equities continue to trade mixed as sell pressures on UBA and Fidelity Bank offset investors' interest in OANDO and GTCO. Chinazom Izuora, Senior Associate Investment Brokerage at Parthian Securities, joins me now for a weekly wrap on market movements and what to expect in the coming week. Chinazom, thank you so much. Good to have you on the show with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's start with trading highlights. We've had a number of market-moving news, if you will. This week we've had, of course, the earnings from Geregu Power. We saw Fidelity, of course, interim declared by UBA. But investors are still awaiting more Q3 earnings. But let's start with Geregu Power. Revenue up 51.5% year-on-year at 31.9 billion in the third quarter of this year. Talk to us about those results.
Yeah, so Geregu is an interesting company, especially I note the fact that they've consistently been one of the first to release their audited financials. That speaks to some good corporate governance on their part. Of course, because they're in the oil and gas sector, in the power sector, the performance is expected because, of course, they're benefiting from FX. So they're benefiting from FX, they're benefiting from some of the liberalization in the power sector. And I've seen the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission make some statements that make me believe that there's a lot of interesting things going to happen in the Nigerian power sector. One critical one is the fact that the different states can now regulate power.
Right.
So I believe with things like that, companies like Geregu are going to benefit a lot.
Right.
And perhaps with the plan to remove NBET from the process, that power companies and off-takers can now make the agreements between themselves.
Right.
I believe there's a lot of potential in the Nigerian power sector.
So this is definitely one stock to watch. You think investors will be keeping an eye on this one?
Yes, it's definitely one to watch.
Right. And something interesting, I mean, going to happen next week, Aradel Holdings, a company called Aradel Holdings, planning to list its shares on NGX on Monday. It's an energy firm with operations spanning upstream, midstream, downstream power, renewables, but it's currently also listed on the NESD at 704 Naira 45 kobo. I mean, how excited is the market? And in terms of, we haven't had too many this year. I mean, we always talk about the IPO pipeline, not very robust at the market, but a few names. But talk to us about this company. How excited you think the market will be, especially in the sector that it's going to be listed in?
So with Aradel, we've actually seen a lot of interest in Aradel as a company, even while it was listed on the NESD, because with the liberalization of FX and removal of subsidy, there's been a lot of interest in the oil and gas sector. Aradel on NESD has actually rallied a lot this year. So them coming to the NGX is basically a strategic move on behalf of the company. Deciding to list on the NGX could be basically getting more visibility,
right,
making your shares more readily available, because the NGX versus the NESD, there's a lot more liquidity, there's a lot more visibility. But I think a lot of people don't pay attention to the NESD market, but there are actually a lot of interesting companies listed there that are currently performing, and perhaps that's something we need to talk about, like getting more people.
Maybe that's one conversation we should have.
Because the regulation says that any company that is a public company should be listed. As far as you're publicly traded company, as far as you're a public company, you're supposed to be listed or introduced or quoted on the NESD to make it easy for your shareholders to exchange their securities.
Right.
So that's something that we should actively try and get more companies that are not ready, because the regulatory requirements to list on the NGX are a lot steeper than on the NESD. So when a company is making this transition, it speaks to their corporate governance.
Of course, there's transparency, financials going back 5 years, I think, or something, right?
Yes, but it also just says that this company feels that it has come to a level that it can open itself up to this amount of scrutiny.
Right.
And that's an applaudable thing. And I mean, the company has been profitable, their dividend yield looks good. So now that they're coming to the bigger markets, there's going to be a lot more scrutiny on the company, and we hope they continue to perform.
Would that be the impact, because it will be listed alongside OANDO, Seplat, and the rest of, the other guys?
So in terms of the fact that Arada is an integrated oil and gas company, so it would be, perhaps by the time you list, there will be people trying to make comparisons between Arada and OANDO.
Right.
But the other listed oil and gas companies such as MRS, ETI, Etana are in just segments of that market.
Right.
But yes, there's going to be that, but the more the merrier.
Obviously,
because
yes,
the more
the merrier,
listed companies, the more options investors have. And of course, it's coming in way higher than where OANDO is currently trading.
Yeah, over 704, that's high.
I think their listing price is going to be around 400 and something.
Oh, okay.
So right. I think they are deciding to come in probably based on their own valuation, so that it's a bit more attractive for people to take position. But yes, it's always, with being listed on the market, it's always going to be about whether the people buying it are investors or traders.
That is a good point. But I mean, still exciting times for the market. Always a good one. Always a good thing to see a company list on the NGX. But what are the other trading highlights for you this week? What did we see? I know we saw volumes in UBA, Fidelity. Obviously, Fidelity's half-year numbers was a good one for investors to see.
Yes, it was very good. We've seen so much. All the banks that have released their half-year audited financials or their half-year financials, we've seen the same metrics-wise growth in their interest income, growth in their fees and commissions. We've seen a lot of growth in the banking sectors, and we've also seen a lot more generosity in their payouts. That could be them learning from the fact that their retained earnings are not going to be admissible for recapitalization. True. So some of them are saying, I mean, why hold it when you can now give it back to
UBA
shareholders?
$2 per share. I
think that strategy is really smart. Like, give that money back to shareholders. By the time you come to market, believe that they believe in what you've been doing and are going to reinvest that money to take up whatever offer that comes to market.
Right.
So this week, trading on the market has been very mixed. Probably people have taken profit. People that were in UBA or Fidelity early have taken profit. That has sort of slow down the price acceleration in those companies.
Speaking about slowing down, I wanted to take you back, to the banks. Yes, we've seen, interest income numbers are great, but going forward, now that we have, we're expecting inflation to increase. I know that recently banks have increased their impairment, what they're, setting aside for impairment. There's that talk about, look, businesses, obviously interest rates are going up, then we might be seeing a higher level of defaults or companies unable to service their debt as it went due, and the banks are realizing this and also taking steps to. Is that something that's of concern, or is this something that banks can just easily make impairments?
I mean, from a risk management perspective, it's something that the entire ecosystem needs to be watching. I think the CBN and their prudential guidelines. Whenever we see a lot of rally, a lot of activity, you hear CBN releasing notices. They're like, everybody, let's be cautious.
Let's not get carried away, right?
Yes. Periods like this, it's also very easy for things to break and for there to be issues, which is why I'm sure the banks are going to be putting a lot of risk management things in place for the facilities they are giving out and servicing those facilities. I think we also saw the CBN raising MPR and raising the cash reserve ratio.
Yes, and that obviously will have that impact on the economy, where the economy will slow down further. Businesses, especially the small businesses, will not be able to expand because they cannot afford to even service the loans, or taking loans, new loans, perhaps even out of the question, because obviously it's just too high.
The rates are quite high.
But with the recapitalization, I guess, coming also down the line, that also helps the banks because they boost their war chest, if you will, and are able to better withstand whatever headwinds come as a result of that and other places. But let's talk about trading for next week. What should we expect in terms of where we should see volumes, stocks on your radar or on investors' radar outside of this listing we're going to see on the NGX? Because I know that's really going to get a lot of attention.
So Arada Monday, we're going to be looking to see, because when in company list initially, you're looking for liquidity.
Right.
Is it going to be freely available? How much trading is going to happen in it? But besides Arada, UBA's qualification is on Monday. Fidelity's qualification is on Thursday. So those are actually also things that are going to drive sentiment.
Market moving news, right? But it's quite interesting that, I mean, NGX year to date is still hovering at around 31%. It's been here for a couple of weeks now. What's going on there?
That's something we discuss with people. Where the NGX is at, a lot of that was high cap stock movements. And some of those high cap stocks are not easy to change the prices. So you have a company like Dangsem that is almost 50% of market valuation. It moves once, it moves twice. Until it moves again, you're not likely to see significant movement in your ASI. We also saw a movement in Seplat, which is also a very heavy capitalized stock. So we saw at the beginning of the year, we saw movements in Seplat, BOA, Dangsem. They haven't moved significantly since then. And without them losing significantly, the ASI is likely to stay
and that
positive.
corroborates what other analysts have told us too, that they believe that much of the gains movements that we're going to see this year has happened already in the beginning part of the year. I mean, barring if we do see that happening, I guess that will happen again, but they don't seem to believe that will happen again. Yeah,
I mean, the ASI itself, because it's an index, and an index is a basket. So the ASI year to date is at 30 something. But then if you look at individual stocks, you have individual stocks that done 2,000%, like, well, not 2,000, but like 600%, 200%, 300%. But because the basket, it sort of dilutes that out. Right.